If you're a commission salon or spa owner working nonstop, barely paying yourself, and wondering how in the heck this became your life, you need a serious upgrade. Welcome to the station. Hey friends, welcome back to the station. This is the podcast for salon and spa owners who are done feeling like they're barely keeping up and ready to step into their role as a true CEO. I'm Bree, founder of the Beauty Biz Agency, and every week we are bringing down the real-life strategies, leadership lessons, and mindset shifts that really help you build a business that actually runs behind the scenes, not just one that looks good on the gram. So whether you're leading a team, flying solo, or maybe you're somewhere in between, you're in the right place. This show is for beauty pros who want to build something bigger than themselves without feeling completely burnt out. And as always, I've got my amazing co-founder and co-host Chandra here with me today. Hey girl, what's up?
Hello. Not a whole lot. Just excited to be here today.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're here with me. So today's episode, I think it's one that's going to hit because we're not talking about policies today. We're not talking about our pricing. We're not talking about our team structure. We are talking about YOU, you. Specifically, the energy that you bring into your salon, the vibe that you carry, the presence that you lead with. Because whether you realize it or not, you are setting the tone every single day. And if things have felt maybe off lately, if the culture feels heavier than maybe it should, if the team seems distant, if the whole place feels like it's walking on eggshells, been there, done that, it might not be a people problem. It just might be a you problem. And I don't say that to blame anybody. Chandra and I never want you guys to feel that way. We really say it to empower you, because if it's your energy that's off, that means you can shift it. So really, you're in a really good place, because when you shift it, your whole culture can start to change. Chandra, I know we both walked into salons where you can just feel that tension before anyone even says a word. What do you think makes owners underestimate just how much weight their presence actually carries?
I think they do kind of get stuck in just sort of thinking it's a people problem. Like, oh, my team's not listening to me. My team's not doing the things I want. And they get frustrated, and then that frustration, I think, comes off onto their team. And so I think a lot of it is they're not really thinking about that part of it. They're more stuck in the weeds, and they're thinking about more, why is this not working the way I want it to work? Why is everybody upset? Instead of actually looking at maybe the root cause of what's going on.
Absolutely. It's so much easier to project outward than to look inward, right? We never want to do that for some reason, but we have to start learning to do that because we are the number one and everybody looks to us. So we got to make sure that we are good to go. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the episode, I want to share a story from one of our coaching clients. We are just going to call her Sally, and the small shift that she made that really had a massive impact on her salon. Sally came to us extremely frustrated. Her team wasn't necessarily toxic. They weren't doing anything wrong per se, but the energy in the salon was very, very heavy. There was no collaboration, no momentum. It felt like everyone was just kind of going through the motions every day. And Sally was absolutely exhausted and honestly a little bit infuriated at the same time. So during one of our one-on-one calls, she told us, look, I put the systems in place that you guys helped me create. I'm doing all of my one-on-ones. I'm doing the team meetings, but I still feel like I'm dragging this thing and everybody that's in it up a hill by myself, and I don't know what else to do. And I know some of you out there listening right now can probably relate. I felt this way at one point. I'm sure Chandra has too. The first thing that we did was a deep dive into Sally's leadership, not just the logistics, but how she was actually showing up. And what came out of that conversation was this. She was walking into her salon every day already frustrated, already in that fix-it mode like most of us are. She wasn't being rude. She wasn't yelling. But her body language, her tone, it gave off that, do not talk to me unless it's urgent energy. And that was a problem because her team was reading her energy loud and clear, and they were responding by pulling back. So we got to work. We coached her on how to shift her presence, not by pretending that everything was fine, but by being more intentional about the way she showed up. She started kicking off her day with this short team huddle that actually brought people together. It set the tone. It created focus. It built momentum. She started using language and verbiage that tied everything back to the bigger picture, not just what needed to get done that day. And so we worked on helping her lead with consistency, not just correcting mistakes, but actually setting expectations early and clearly and following through. And within a few weeks, Sally told us, I'm not getting that resistance anymore. My team is starting to step up. They're talking, they're collaborating. It just feels lighter. And that's the thing. She didn't have to change her team. She didn't have to burn it all down. She literally changed her leadership and the culture followed. Chandra, I know you and I have both seen this happen time and time again, where it's not about the team needing to change. It's about the owner stepping into a different level of leadership. Why do you think that shift is so hard to see when you're in the weeds, like you just said earlier?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because you're thinking about other things. You're busy about other things. You're trying to, put certain things in place in your business that you think is going to be better, and you're not understanding why they're not getting behind it. And I think that leadership, I think the reason that shift happens when you change your leadership is just because you're doing it in a different way now. You're aligning them instead of just sort of being the person that walks around and is frustrated and mad all the time. You're getting them to see the bigger picture. And I think that when you do that, that's when everything changes. And that's when they start to realize what they're part of instead of just doing the day-to-day things that get boring over and over. So I think when we get stuck in that space where we're just looking at today, putting out the fires, putting out the things, doing those things, we have a hard time sometimes seeing past that to the bigger picture ourselves. So if we can't, the team can't get aligned behind anything either.
Yeah, it's 100% right. Like, so many of us are carrying all of this weight on our we're worried about keeping the lights on and keeping the doors open. And so a lot of times, plus dealing with everything going on in our personal lives, right? Like, that's huge. And it's so hard sometimes for us to see the vision as well. You're 100% right. So I think today, let's talk about what this actually looks like in real leadership. Because when we say your energy shapes the culture, we're not just talking about whether or not you're in a good mood. We're talking about how your presence, your clarity, your tone, your steadiness, it either anchors your team or it unravels them completely. So we're going to talk about 5 shifts that we actually coach our members through when the culture feels tense, when it feels disconnected, or when it's overly dependent on the owner keeping everything together. And these shifts, they work because they go deeper than the surface level leadership, and they go into how you actually create alignment and momentum. Chandra brings up the word alignment all the time, and I love that word because it is so, so important. So number 1 is you set the tone every day, whether you mean to or not. This is the baseline of leadership. How you walk in is going to set the temperature for how your team operates. If you come in frustrated, flustered, distracted, visibly irritated, your team is going to start bracing for impact almost immediately. Even if nothing is said out loud, they're going to feel it. But when you come in calm and with clarity and with direction, it's going to create that safety net for your team. And safety is going to unlock performance. So let's talk about how you actually do this. At the Beauty Biz Agency, we coach owners to set clear leadership rituals. Something your team sees, something they feel, something they experience, but it has to be done consistently. That might look like kicking off each day with that 5-minute alignment huddle, where you do 3 things. You define the top priority, you highlight one thing that went right the day before, and you ask for any quick fire support that your team needs in order to succeed that day. This is going to set intention, not just information. We also have owners build in what we call a leadership readiness checkpoint. That could be 10 minutes before the first client, away from the floor, reviewing the daily goal, running through team needs, and setting the tone that they want to carry throughout that day. No phone, no Slack messages, no social media, clear prep. Because when you walk in and you're already in motion, your team doesn't know what they're walking into. But when you walk in with a plan, calm, presence type of thing and a grounded tone, you've already done the hardest part of leadership, making your people feel steady. Your energy can't lead the team if it's always trying to catch up with the day. It's not about being fake. It's not about pretending. It's about being intentional. Chandra, what's one shift that you have seen help an owner move from that reactive type thing to more of a grounded area before they even start their day?
Yeah, I mean, and I do this myself. That helps me a lot too, is I'd really think that setting that intention, like you said, and knowing what your focus is for that day or for that month or whatever that looks like, but making sure that everything that you're walking in with is for that intention. So if our intention is, to hit certain numbers or certain things, then I'm walking in with like, hey guys, we're all in this boat together. We're going to get to this end goal. And they kind of have that map and that plan. And so I really think setting that hard intention is probably one of the biggest shifts that you can start with, just so that way you kind of know what your goal is too, because then all the other little things don't bother you as bad because you're like, okay, well, we'll handle that because right now, like, I'm focused on this.
Absolutely. I think that's 100% accurate. Now, once you've gotten intentional about how you're going to show up, the next layer is going to be how you respond, because you guys know as well as we do, things don't always go as planned. So number 2 is stay in control of your reactions. Your reaction in high pressure moments, it teaches your team everything about your leadership. When something goes wrong, and you know that it will, do you lead through it or do you absolutely lose it? And you really need to think about that. When you are unpredictable under pressure, your team is going to start tiptoeing. They stop problem solving and they start managing you instead of what they're supposed to focus on. And when your team is busy managing your reactions, nobody's focused on solving the real problem. So what's the fix? You have to have a personal protocol. We coach owners to build this into their leadership muscle. When something triggers you, you have to step away, even if it is just for 30 or 60 seconds. Take one full breath before you say a freaking word. Ask yourself, do I need to react right now, or do I need to lead in this moment? That microsecond of control, it can create macro level trust. Chandra, why do you think consistency in leaders' reactions matters just as much as what they say?
Because your team is watching you, right? And they're taking their lead from you as the leader. And so if you are not calm, or if you can't handle things in a good way, then they start to feel that they handle things that way then. If they see like you're very like, we got this, we can handle this, let's figure out a solution together, then they start to do that on their own as well, even if you're not there. So they're like, okay, we got this, we know, instead of kind of that, where they start freaking out and making your life more difficult, So I think that handling it in those ways, it's huge. Like how you show up is what they're watching, what they're thinking, how they're going to feel like if they're walking on eggshells. And so your energy and how you come in is 100% how that day is going to go and how you're going to develop that team.
For sure. So now we've got you and you're showing up with intention. You're responding with steadiness. Chaos can still creep in if your business does not have structure. So that brings us to the next piece, which is number 3. Systems take the emotion out of the day. When structure is completely missing, emotion is going to take its place. And that, my friends, is where all of your stress lives. That's where your frustration grows. That's where people start making up their own version of what is expected in your business. We don't just build systems to run a tighter ship. We build systems to stabilize the energy of the day. People look at it backwards all the time. They think systems just means rules, and that's not what it is. Your huddle system, your checkout process, your rebooking flow, those are more than just tasks. Those are culture builders. So how do you shift this? Well, you have to audit the moments where your team constantly asks for clarification or where you are repeating yourself the most. We hear this over and over and over. I repeat myself 1,000,000 times a day. I've said it 1,000,000 times. That's why the processes have to be documented. You've got to get it written, you've got to get it visible, and you have to coach and lead your team on the way that it is supposed to get followed. And you've got to do it consistency. Refreshers are important. Clarity, it doesn't just create efficiency, it creates emotional stability. Chandra, what is a simple system that you've seen instantly just reduce tension for both the owner and the team?
There are so many. I would say probably one of the most important ones that can shift that the quickest is just what is your process for how they're supposed to show up? Like, how's the guest journey go? Like, once I feel like, that's not an internal system so much. It is, but I think when they kind of know exactly how they're supposed to present themselves to the client, what that client flow is supposed to look like, I feel like that's one of the biggest systems. When we dialed that in, that it kind of started to change a lot of other things too. So I think if you have to pick one, that might be the one that I would say can have some of the most impact on the business overall.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think your guest journey is so very important, and because that's what we're doing 90% of the day, right? So when we know, or when our team knows exactly how they're supposed to do that, that gives you the opportunity to focus on other things and fix other areas. But I think that is a huge system. Now, systems are an absolute must in every salon and spa. We know this because they take the guesswork out of the day, really. And those are going to create structure and stability, which is of utter importance. But even the best systems can't fix what happens when the energy gets off. And that's the reality. And this is where a lot of people or owners get stuck, not because they're bad leaders, but because they haven't been taught how to lead through exactly what they're feeling. So I want to talk about the emotional side of leadership and how to handle what's weighing on you without letting it completely take over the room or take over your studio. So number 4 is don't lead from the stuff that you haven't dealt with. We want to talk about the stuff that doesn't happen in meetings or in team huddles, the part where you're carrying things that nobody else sees. Maybe you're frustrated, maybe you're burnt out, maybe you've got something personal going on. Maybe you're questioning if this whole thing is even worth it some days. I know I've been there a million times. That's real. Your team doesn't need you to be perfect. Let me put it that way. But what they do need is for you to lead from a place that is steady as often as possible, not from whatever's been sitting heavy on you for weeks or months, maybe even years. This isn't about faking it till you make it. We're going to say that over and over. This is about processing what is yours so you don't build a culture around your baggage. We coach owners to have a behind-the-scenes outlet, whether that is a weekly leadership voice note that you record for yourself to track what's bothering you. This is actually something that I do. Or maybe it's a 10-minute standing check-in with your coach or your mentor. It's about giving yourself space to lead through the emotion before it bleeds into the way that you talk to people, the way that you make decisions, the way that you avoid conversations. When you lead from resentment, burnout, anxiety that you haven't worked through, it doesn't just weigh you down. It's going to slow your whole team and your whole business down. So the shift here is really simple. Don't ignore it. Don't dump it. Deal with it quietly, privately, and then lead forward. All right, Chandra, you and I have both been through this, and we've seen what happens when an owner doesn't deal with what they're carrying. What is one way that you've seen someone maybe get back in control of their leadership energy behind the scenes? And how did that impact their team and their business?
I guess kind of from personal experience and from like actually someone that we've worked with that I kind of watched her do this transformation was, I think when you get in that place and you start leading from that resentment place, or that, like, for example, when we were working with somebody and she didn't want to reward any of her team because she was like, I don't want to reward them because they don't care and they don't this and that. And she's coming from that place of like hurt because she's been burned by employees in the past and doesn't want to give that, so then she could never understand why the team wouldn't get behind anything, didn't want to try when they would do contests or do things like that. And so I think one of the biggest things for making that shift was really helping her. And, I've done this with myself too, understand like you're going to have stuff. There's always going to be stuff. You're always going to have employees that are always going to do what you don't want them to do. Like that, we work with people. There's always going to be something. But if you can learn how to separate those things, like when you're feeling that way and putting that aside, like I will write things down. Like, why am I feeling like this? Okay, what is my goal? Why is this derailing me? How do I get back on track? Right. Like really focusing on what the bigger picture is for me always works. And I think we kind of did that with her, and that seemed to snap her out of that space where now she's very excited with her team members. They're all thriving and things are going really well because now she's leading from that place of not that resentment place anymore. Just kind of knowing like, this is what we're doing here. This is our goals. This is who we are. We have to keep that top of mind, and whatever I'm dealing with on the other side, I have to deal with it and I have to handle it, but I have to separate these two things so that they're not getting intertwined and then I'm walking around screaming at everybody. So hopefully that answers it. But I think if you can learn how to separate that and deal with your stuff, but keep your main purpose top of mind when you walk into the business or when you're trying to deal with employee issues or things within the business, makes it a lot easier than trying to pile everything on top of each other.
And I think that's why it is so important to have a support system of a community, right? A mentor, a coach, somebody. I mean, even you and I, like we are kind of that for each other in our businesses and kind of in our personal lives, but it's really, really important. One of the biggest lessons that I learned, and I know that you agree with me because we've talked about this, is you don't want your spouse or your partner to be that person, because then everything gets carried home. You really need a community of like-minded individuals that you can kind of figure out what's going on with yourself. Yes, ask yourself, but you also need somebody to help work through it with. And I think that's really, really important. So, all right. So once you've taken care of what is happening internally, your stress, your energy, your triggers, the next step is making sure that your team isn't just operating from reaction. They're actually moving with direction. If your team doesn't know what they're building or why it matters, they'll eventually check out, start coasting, or go somewhere else. And that's where vision comes in. And most of the time, it's not that salon owners don't really have a vision. It's that they don't talk about it enough. So let's break down how you can bring your vision into the everyday so your team isn't just following you, they are actually with you. So number 5 is, if you're not casting the vision, the team fills in the blanks. Honestly, this is one of the biggest reasons salon culture goes sideways, but it's also one of the easiest to fix, in my opinion. If you aren't consistently sharing the bigger picture, your team is going to make one up of their own. And let's be honest, it usually won't be accurate or positive. They're going to start thinking things like, our owner only cares about the money. There's no plan here at this studio. We're all just doing our own thing. And if that's the case, I might as well work alone. Once you have a narrative like this set in, or a story like this, you are going to start getting resistance. Your teammates are going to get burnt out, or you're going to get that checked out energy that feels almost impossible to fix. So you have to ensure that you're bringing your vision into the day-to-day of your salon. I really want you guys to think about that. How many of you talk about your vision consistently? I don't mean this one-time speech or something you post and hang on the wall. Chandra and I mean weaving it into the way that you lead your team and your business on a daily basis. It's important, and we coach our owners to say things like this. Here's how this decision supports where we're going and make sure that we all reach the goals that we have created. This is the kind of salon that we are building, and this is why these details are so important. I'm holding this standard because I know what we are capable of as a team. Even simple reminders like, this is a growth season, or here's the goal that we're focused on this month. It can keep the direction visible. When your team can see the vision and they feel like they're part of building it, they stop asking, why are we doing all of this crap? Because they already know. Chandra, what is one way that you have seen a salon owner lead with vision? Not this big raw moment, but in the everyday way that they show up and make decisions.
I think it's really, like you said, conveying that to your team, making sure that they know what the bigger picture is, what the vision is. And then I think when you make every decision in your business, it has to be in the direction headed towards that vision, right? And that's how I think people do start to get behind it, because they're like, okay, I see why whatever she's doing, the owner, whoever's doing, matters, because I see the impact it's going to have on the end result or the bigger picture. And then every day, like when we're talking about goals or we're talking about things with the team members, they understand, okay, I get it, because our goal is for them to make money, right? Like one of our main goals is for them to grow, for them to be successful in their career. So when we're pushing them to hit certain benchmarks or hit certain things or to shorten their timings or whatever that looks like, they get behind it because they're like, okay, I get it. I see your goal is for me to make this much money. Your goal is for the salon to be successful. I have to do these things or else I won't get there. And so I think you have to really make every decision that you make aligned with that bigger picture and that vision. And then when they see that, they get on board. I mean, they really do. I get so frustrated sometimes when we are coaching and we keep trying to say that to somebody, like, you need to let your team know this. You need to convey this. Your life would be so much easier if you did, like you just want to like shake them. And so I think when you can really put that out there and make those decisions based on that vision, that's how you do it. Like that's how you get the team aligned, and that's how you get that front and center.
Yeah, I think this was one of the things that I had to learn kind of the hard way, because we are taught all the time, right? Don't share certain things with your team. Don't do this. Don't do that. That's the old school way of doing things. You can't do that anymore. You can't just say, I want to be $1 million salon owner or a $5 million salon owner. You have to get your team involved. You are absolutely correct. And if I can just brag for a second, Chandra is really, really good at this with her team. Like, she excels when it comes to this area. So if you want to listen to somebody, listen to her, because she has an amazing culture there. All right. So now you know what it really looks like to lead your team with energy, with structure, emotional control, and vision. But what if you're out there and you're realizing, I haven't been doing any of this and my team already feels disconnected? Well, that kind of brings us right into our listener question today. The question is, how do I rebuild trust with my team after realizing that I haven't been showing up as the leader that I want to be and that they deserve? I feel like I've been really inconsistent, and now they just don't take me seriously at all. First off, I just want to say the fact that you even asked this question tells me that you're already moving in the right direction. It's hard to admit and ask that out loud, because most people, they don't stop and ask how to rebuild trust. They just sweep it under the rug and they push forward. So let's talk about what rebuilding actually looks like. It starts with ownership, not this dramatic apology, just a moment of real honesty. That could sound something like, I've realized I haven't been leading the way that I want or the way that you deserve. I've been inconsistent, and I know that that is affecting each of you. I'm not expecting this overnight trust. I just want you to know that I see it and I am committed to doing better. No excuses, no long backstory, just clear, steady ownership. Next, you've got to show them. And this is the part that's going to take time. Trust isn't rebuilt through one big gesture. You guys know that in life. That's not how it works. It's rebuilt through small, consistent action. You follow through when you say you will. You have the tough conversations without emotions driving the bus. You lead the morning huddle even when you're tired. You show up on time. You show up grounded. You show up steady. Over time, your team is going to see that, and they're going to start relaxing again. They stop waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? They start believing that you're actually serious about leading, not just managing. And one more thing, do not expect applause, because you're not going to get it. When you shift, your team might not give you that instant credit. In fact, they probably won't. And that's okay. You're not doing this for that applause. You are doing this to be a better leader, to build a better team, and to build a business that is going to survive. So take the first step, be honest, be consistent, and be clear. Trust, it isn't about perfection, it's about proof. And if you're willing to do the work, you can earn it back. Chandra, when it comes to rebuilding trust, what carries more weight? What you say or how you show up afterwards?
I mean, I think both carry a lot of weight, but I feel like how you show up afterwards, I think is probably the most important thing, because sometimes what you say that can sometimes be like forgiven, right? Like you can have a conversation with somebody about that, like I shouldn't have said that or whatever, but how your actions, it's like actions always speak louder than words, right? So how you show up that day, how you are carrying yourself and interacting, I think that's going to be the most important thing to pay attention to.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I am one of those that, you can tell me things until you're blue in the face. I've got to see it. I'm probably not, if you have broken my trust, I am probably not going to believe you until I see it. That's just kind of who I am. So I agree with that 100%. I think so many times we as owners, we say things, right, and we may really mean them, but sometimes we say things just to appease people, and then we never change those actions. I've been guilty of it. Have you done that before, Chandra?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I think we all do. And so we really have to show up and rebuild that trust. Your team deserves that so very much. I think that was a really solid question. And honestly, I think it's a common place for owners to find themselves, because nobody teaches you how to lead through the messy middle. That's something that none of us were taught in cosmetology school or beauty school, not how to lead, not how to coach, not how to do any of it. And that's really what this whole episode was about. Your systems matter, your strategy matters, but the energy that you bring as the owner, that is what is going to set the tone every single day. And the good news is it's something that you can shift. Remember, you don't have to get louder with things. You don't have to hustle any harder. That's not what it's about. You just have to lead with clarity, with consistency, and with intention. And if you are ready to start doing that work, not just hope that your team gets better on their own, that's exactly what we do at the Beauty Biz Agency. So whether you need systems, support, or maybe just someone to show you how to lead like a CEO and not a chaos coordinator, we're here for that. Head to www.thebeautybizagency.com to learn more, or shoot us a message and let's talk about what's really going on in your business. If this episode hit home, do us a favor, subscribe, leave a review, and send it to a fellow salon owner who needs to hear it. That's how we start shifting this industry together, one bold leader at a time. Chandra, before we close it out, can you let our listeners know how they can stay connected with us and plug into everything that we've got going on at BBA?
Yeah, definitely follow us on social media. We're at the Beauty Biz Agency on Instagram and Facebook. You can also reach out to us on TikTok at the Beauty Biz Mentors. We would love to hear from you guys. We do have a Facebook Live that we do the first Monday of every month at 7 p.m. Central Time. So we'd love to have you pop on there as well. So shoot us a message and stay connected. We definitely, are here for you and would love to hear from you.
Amazing. All right. You've been listening to The Station, the podcast where beauty pros step out of survival mode and into real, profitable leadership. Until next time, protect your energy, lead with purpose, and don't just build a team, build a movement. Now go out there, make bank, run the show, and ditch that chair. Until next time, keep slaying those business goals with a whole lot of swagger.